The Kenyan president says his country's troops have defeated the Islamist militants at the centre of a 4-day siege in a Nairobi shopping mall. In a television address, Uhuru Kenyatta said that 61 civilians, 6 security officers and 5 of the attackers had died. Another 11 alleged militants have been taken into custody elsewhere in the city. He added that 3 floors of the mall had collapsed and it's not clear how many more bodies may be under that rubble. In the last hour, President Kenyatta addressed the nation.
I report with great sadness that 61 civilians lost their lives in the attack. 6 security officers also made the ultimate sacrifice to defeat the criminals.
Our international editor, Lindsey Hilsum, is outside the Westgate Mall and joins us now. Lindsey.
The president seems somewhat shaken as he gave his address, Krishnan. He himself has lost a nephew and the nephew's fiancée in the siege at Westgate behind me. He announced 3 days of national mourning. He said that 11 suspects have been arrested, but it's not at all clear who those suspects are. There's been talk in the last few days of people arrested at the airport and others in a nearby shanty town called Majengo. In the last few days, we've heard that there are 10 or maybe 15 gunmen still in Westgate. We don't know what has happened to them. We don't know what has happened to people who we were told were being held hostage there. And the president didn't really answer those questions. He seemed to concentrate on unifying the nation, praising the Kenyan security forces, praising the Kenyan people, trying to get everybody to stand together at this time of tragedy. But I think we're still quite a long way from knowing exactly what happened at the Westgate shopping mall.
This morning, the Kenyan government said the siege was already over. But that's not how it looked this afternoon. Police said they were detonating booby traps and they seemed relaxed at the front entrance, but were clearly still on alert for any movement at the back.
We're still hearing occasional blasts and sporadic gunfire from the Westgate shopping centre behind me. And bit by bit, we're piecing together more information about the attackers. Eyewitnesses have said to me that the attackers spoke both Swahili and Somali. They allowed at least one Somali woman to escape. They said to her, "We don't want to kill Muslims or Somalis." But they killed both, as well as a still unknown number of people of different nationalities and faiths.
He was the one that was right in front of us.
Yeah. This picture of 2 of the gunmen has been seen around the world. Their faces Shiksha Aurora will never forget.
Yeah, and they were just in front of us and they were just looking right at us in the eye. And they were just standing there with the big guns. He was very dark and he was tall and he was wearing a white shirt. And he had a bandana, a black thing around his neck, and he was carrying a big bag. So I'm guessing the bag was where the grenades were from.
A grenade blast had ripped through the children's cookery contest she was attending. Cowering on the floor, she saw another.
The grenade fell six people away from me. So we thought we were going to die because the grenade, the impact, and it was so close to us that if it blew, we would be in pieces, but it didn't. And it didn't blow, and we were so shocked that, you know, we're still alive.
Shiksha showed me a picture she had taken as she lay in a heap of people hiding behind a car.
You know, at that moment, you didn't know what to do. There was a lady next to me, and she kept screaming. She's like, that's my baby, on the floor. And he was a little kid who was dead.
They were in their early 20s, she said, and at one point she thinks they were speaking Swahili.
The gunmen only left because somebody called them on their phones. They had their phones in their hand, and somebody called them and told them to come down. So they were like, yes, yes, you know. They had no mercy. They were shooting at people like they want to see deaths. They want to see people dying.
Amina was outside the shopping centre. That's not her real name, and we're hiding her face because she fears reprisals. It seems the gunmen may have regretted killing Somali Muslims. When she called a friend, a Somali Muslim like her, who had been shot, one of his killers picked up the mobile.
He said, okay, we don't want him to go to the mortuary. He's here at that third floor, at the parking. The body is here, he's dead. We want you to go down there and we want you to go to the ambulance and talk to those Yahuds.
That means the Jews?
Jews, yeah. And help you come up and pick the body. And don't call this phone again. And he hung on me.
So the gunman on the phone told you to go and pick up the body of your dead friend?
Yes, he did that. But it was not possible because the whole place was covered by militaries.
She told the police, but they didn't follow up, even when she spoke to the gunman again in their presence.
I did that. I called the person picked. And he said, so-and-so, what are you waiting? I told you to come and pick the body from here. And I said, how can I come there? Before we finish our conversations, there was conversation among the officers. And I think maybe he thought I'm setting him up. He hung the phone up on me.
The Nairobi mortuary is filling up. The president said 61 civilians and 6 police officers are dead. But people here fear there are more bodies inside, and more grief to come.
I'm now joined by Sunil Sachdeva. We spoke to his son yesterday. They were both in Westgate Mall. Tell me, Sunil, what did you actually see of the gunmen yourself?
Yesterday at 5 minutes to 1, I was working on my patients in my clinic on the 4th floor, and we have some windows overlooking the 2nd floor car park. And there were quite a few loud blasts, a lot of gunfire, and when we looked out of the window, we saw a whole crowd run out towards the children's tent where they were having the cookery competition.
And these men who were shooting, could you see them at all?
The shots were coming from a covered area, and as we kept peeping, the crowd ran further and further and crouched in the corner. And then suddenly these two guys walked into the view. They were tall, thin, dark, with bandanas on their head, carrying automatic weapons and walking so slowly as if they were in no hurry.
And I know that you and your son, you saved quite a lot of people, didn't you?
Well, I stayed back to help, yes. You know, I did what I could. I got 23 people out of my office that day with the help of my son.
You must have been terrified.
You know, terrifying feelings came later. At that time, you just thought survival instincts.
And you must be very proud of your son, who came back in to help save people.
Absolutely. He went in 3 times, actually.
Do you believe it's really over?
I believe now it's really over because for the last 4 or 5 years, for 4 or 5 hours, there is no sound. But let's hope and pray that it's over.
Sunil Sachdeva, thank you very much. Krishnan, the president says that it's over. The speech he gave tonight made that quite clear. But there remain a lot of unanswered questions. Al-Shabaab say it isn't. They say they've still got militants in there. And we don't know what has happened under those crushed floors. One of the things the president said was that 3 stories of the mall have just collapsed. And the fear is that there could be bodies in there. The Red Cross is saying that 63 people are still missing. And so we're still very, very concerned here in Nairobi as to what has happened to those people. And also, what has happened to all of the attackers. There are a lot of unanswered questions here in Nairobi tonight.